Hello and welcome to Marketing Corner, episode 138.
Yay!
Woo,
Whoop, whoop, whoop,
woo,
whoop,
woo.
whoop.
Now we're recording this pre-Christmas, but
Yes.
you're going to hear this post-Christmas.
Most likely, because we're lazy and we don't want to actually work over Christmas for once.
lazy.
We're not that lazy. People, if you've been listening before, you know we're
not
actually
that lazy.
really not that lazy.
Look at these
We're
bags. Look at these bags.
Timmy needs a holiday.
Timmy.
Sarah needs a holiday. Jen needs a holiday.
need a
And this
holiday.
bad boy here needs a fucking holiday.
Yeah, we need a
So,
holiday. So,
yeah.
and before we kick in, congratulations
Yeah.
on what is it? Denmark's 100 most.
Influential social media influencer, something.
Yes.
Like, what was the title? Like, yeah. Denmark's 100 most influential LinkedIn voices in marketing and sales.
Yes.
And I'm number 16, I believe. No, let me check. I'm number 16.
You're number 60. Yes, you are. And I'm number 40.
40. Yay!
Yay! We're both on the list.
So apparently we matter.
Yeah, so listen to us.
Yeah, you should listen to us in general.
Yeah, in general, just
and
listen
if
to us
you're
more.
listening to this, maybe, yeah. No, these are always interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I actually made a comment. Did you see my comment?
No, I didn't.
No,
I didn't even know about it until I saw my
I made
face.
a comment
because
because and then apparently a lot of people thought it was funny, so I'll just say it here. I just think like most of the egos on this list didn't need a boost. I was just like, and I wrote that most of our egos didn't need more boosting, but here we are.
Yeah, but Katrina's number 2, friend of the pod.
Yeah,
And she doesn't have a big ego.
No, but she's a marketeer. I
We're-
love
I mean,
Katrina
we're all-
to the moon. Like,
we
don't
love-
get me wrong, but she's a marketeer, just like you and me. We don't have a biggie, but we do have a bit of.
It
an
was
ego.
nice. When I
It's
saw
nice.
you were on there, I was like, yay, but
Yeah.
I'm not on there. And then
You
today
are.
I saw myself on there and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yay. So
These
congratulations.
lists are always fun. There's always there's also in the Danish scene, there's like these like M lists. Have you ever heard of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a thing, and they will be announced later and stuff. And I can't help because I have part of me that's always, don't get me wrong, when I see this, it puts a smile on my face.
Yeah,
I'm not
really
gonna
nice.
lie, but at the same time, I'm also like, it's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make it clear where the data came from.
No,
And my
exactly.
title
like,
was wrong and stuff, but
and,
I'll
like,
take it. You know
seems,
what?
It seems quite legit, but
I'd
it's just
take
still, yeah, whatever.
I'll take it. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And
Likewise.
thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about. I can't do it at Casper level segue into
That's
this
fine.
topic.
Yeah,
Sorry
it's
about
good.
that.
It's good.
We're very close to Christmas, folks.
Yeah.
But
I haven't slept in ages.
I have not slept in ages. But you have recently-ish organized a very successful, I will say, B2B conference here in Copenhagen.
About 45 days ago now.
Yeah,
ish.
just over a month.
Yeah.
I got to speak and
Mm-hmm.
I attended, and there's some really great speakers. I think it was really, really great, and I'd love to maybe share with our audience some of the things you learned from organizing a conference at that scale.
Absolutely.
How many attendees?
120. So I think we sold 100 tickets, and that was our max capacity, and then we had a few people we brought in as partners and stuff like that. So I think there was 120 people at the venue
For your first one ever.
for our first one ever. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, sold out.
Sold out in your first one.
Yeah.
Looking forward to next year. So
Yeah.
I thought what we could talk about today is kind of what was that process like? Let's start with why did you do it?
Yes.
What was the process like? What would you have done differently?
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
So, in case you haven't heard of it, we have talked about it. It's Growthforia, right? Like, and so the why is quite simple. Like, I think I've talked with Frederik, especially about doing a conference for some time. Like, we should do something big, a big splash. That's been kind of like what we wanted to do. And then at one point we met Andreas from previously at Neurons. Super cool. And then and he also had the idea that he wanted to do a conference. And they're like, okay, we should do a conference. And then I think that's the first how we actually got together.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were like, okay, why are we even talking about a conference? Because we're missing one, right? Like,
Yeah.
I felt like I think the closest, one of the best conferences I have been at, I love Sassiest as an example. I'm a huge fan of Sassiest,
Yep.
and
Shout
a
out.
lot of the ones I went to, one in Croatia, but there's not, first of all, Sassiest is Malmö. It's very close to Denmark, so you can kind of
But it's not Copenhagen.
But it's not Copenhagen. So that's the first thing. I think the second part for me, like, Sassiest was great, but Sassiest is focused on SaaS, but not SaaS marketing, like not marketing in SaaS. So it had a lot of product, it had a lot of customer success, and all the super important things, but just there wasn't something just for marketeers in SaaS.
Yep.
And
B2B, right?
in B2B, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was missing. So that's I wanted to create that. And then let's be real. This is this is a good way for me and Sparkforce to kind of put our name out there, right? Like we want to work with B2B SaaS companies, B2B SaaS and tech companies. Well, then let's be the ones who throw a conference, right?
Yeah.
So that's a why.
And I agree with you. I think that's something that's been missing. I mean, we have Tech Barbecue.
Yeah.
That used to have a marketing track. It doesn't really anymore.
I think there's like a lot of them, like just like Tech Barbecue, they become so big that they have tracks, and like it works, but it's also like I'm walking around and like 1/10 of the people know marketing.
Yeah.
The others are investors or like salespeople, people, founders who need pitches, like all these. I love Tech Barbecue. It's a really cool event. It's just I don't get any marketing knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm not smarter after having attended Tech Barbecue per se, right?
In the early days, I did walk away with some really interesting insights. But then gradually, yes, as they got bigger, they turned more towards an investment kind of platform, which is fine. That works for them.
Yeah.
And then I was going to say Comfo Summit was the only sort of market. And Spark? That's where we met.
Yeah, Spark. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
we
old,
met that was
back when it was called Falcon, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually, it was so funny because like I had on my LinkedIn profile, my cover picture
Is you speaking there
at Spark. Yeah. And it said Spark in the background, and that's why I kept it so long. But I lost so much weight. People were like, Casper, you really need to change it. I'm like, I want to keep it, but I had to change it.
But that's where we first met. I think that was 2016 or something like that. It was a while ago. It was a long time ago. That's when we first met. So
that's a good conference, by the way.
Yeah. So, but point is, there aren't any marketing-focused B2B SaaS conferences for the people like us to go and learn and get better. And I think a lot of the events that you and I go to today are where we teach other people.
Yes.
Again, still really, really useful. I love it. I love being a mentor. I love sharing knowledge, but I'd love to learn.
And I think that's the second part, or another point to the why is also that we felt here, Frederik, Andreas, and I, we all felt that. Just like you are expressing here, like we go to a lot of conferences, and it's very rare that I leave a conference where I'm like, like there's usually like, hey, this one person was great or two people was great. Most of the time I'm like, yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
Right? So we wanted it to be like, okay, if we imagine that the level, and I'm giving us, you and me credit, like that's the level of speaker I want at every slot of the day.
Yeah.
So we tried to get that. And I think we did pretty well.
Yes.
On that, to be honest.
So that's the why.
Yeah.
That was why we needed it. Yeah. Obviously, there was a gap in the market.
Yeah.
And a great opportunity for an agency.
To
network and meet with people. So how did you get that ball rolling?
So first we had the initial talk with Andreas, and it was just Frederik, me, and Andreas, right? And then we were like, okay, and then we brought in our Timmy that most people have. Is usually Timmy in the background making everything work. Shout out to Timmy. He's great.
He was the highlight of the day.
He was the highlight of the day, and he's also the whole reason Growthforia worked. Like, let's be fucking
we love
real.
You, Timmy.
Like, it's nothing.
He's gonna be editing this, and he's gonna have a big smile on his face.
But then then we just like started scheduling it like super early on. So it was like we did it here end of October, and we started planning for it. I think it was it January. Like early January, so like what is that? Almost 11 months before, and then I think we officially launched. What was it? April or something, and then our early bird sale ran out over summer. So we had 4 months of planning before we went public. And then we had to come up with a name. We had to come up with the brand, the website, like the tracks, what are the speakers, all that jazz. Yeah. And there was a bunch of meetings and bunch of back and forth. But I think one of the things we did right early on was getting someone like Timmy on board. Because I think a lot of people, what they, in my opinion, do wrong, especially if they're people like you and me that have been around the block, like, but also are super busy with other stuff, right? Like, and it's not because like, unless you want to turn it into your only thing you do, fine. But then like, there's so much practical stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, in my opinion, when they do the first conference, they take on that practical stuff themselves, where I was kind of clear, like, if this is going to work, we're going to need someone who can take our ideas and make them come to life. And Timmy was up for that, and he did absolutely amazing. So again, massive shout out to him. But that was essentially also, I was pretty clear to Frederik, my partner. I was like, dude, if I can't be the one who coordinates the speaker dinner coordinates all this, I'm going to drown. Right. So that was pretty clear for me in the get-go. Yeah. And then then we started planning. We started finding a name. The name was probably the hardest part, as always.
It always is, though, isn't it?
Fucking hard, man. Like, actually, and this is just for the people who are listening. Like, after we kind of like, one of those things where like you kind of settle on a name and then you discover some issues with it. Like, so we discovered we discovered like Foria. Do you know what Foria means?
No.
Diarrhea. It's not a word for diarrhea. So Foria, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I did not really know that either.
Euphoria sounds great.
And exactly, because it was based on Euphoria, like the Euphoria song, and like we're gonna do more of that next year. By the way,
big fan of the end.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but the half of it was like, okay, this is about diarrhea. I was like, fuck, shit.
Whoops.
And then we're like, no, we settle on this name. Nobody's gonna know. Like nobody's gonna care. And if they know, if they notice, if they point it out, we're just gonna make fun of it.
Did you just say "shut up, nerd"?
Yeah.
Who knows that?
Yeah. Exactly.
Shut up, nerd.
Like nobody knows. And funnily enough, do you know who noticed? Our copywriter. Right? Of course it was, right? So
of course,
our content
doing her job.
Yeah, it was awesome. So we settled on the name, and I think one of the things we also wanted to do was kind of like to create the structure of it. That was also quite hard, right? I found, and one of the things I think is a little bit different, because like a lot of other conferences I see, when they arrange structure, they're like more, when the structure is more like, who do I want to talk? What should be the topic?
Right.
That's the structure. Here we were like, okay, we want them to go from this to this to this. Like, and we tried to do it. Was it successful? A bit, I think, but what essentially we wanted to do is like, you start with strategy, then you talk about motions, and then you talk tactics. So you start high level, like what are the things? And then here we had Brian come and talk, Brian from Quadrant, awesome, really did a good setting the scene. We had Nils come and talk about GTM motions and stuff like that. And then we got more and more tactical during the day with Adam from Holmgren from Fippler, and you were also in the early part, right? So we tried to do like that structure, so people had that feeling that it started strategically and it became more and more like more practical as the day went by.
Yep.
That I think we succeeded with. I wasn't 100% sure everyone got it, and I think we have some learnings. That's not what everyone also wants per se, but that did work, and people did get it. We did also have to explain it, of course, but that worked quite well. And then we, of course, we have a pretty strong network. Like I have a strong network. Frederik has a strong. Andreas has a really strong network too. So once we had like this idea in mind that these are like the 3 steps, then we could start mapping it out, and we mapped it out to 2 tracks. So we wanted it to be some options. So you had a keynote, and then after the keynote, it would split up into 2 tracks, and then we go back to a keynote. So it kept splitting up in that way. Once we decided on that, then it was just filling in the blanks all the way down, right? Like who we wanted to speak there and who could live up to it and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got your speakers.
Yeah.
You found your flow.
Yeah.
How the hell do you sell out your first conference? And your tickets were not cheap. I will say they were not.
No.
It wasn't a bargain basement kind of, oh, they're cheap, let's get tickets. They weren't. They were market. I mean, they were fair, but they weren't cheap.
They weren't cheap. No, not at all. There was at full price, there was 2,500, right?
Yeah.
DKK per price, and I think the early bird was like 1,500 or something. So that's not cheap at all. And but you would be surprised at like when you look at the market, like for conferences.
Oh,
those
it's
are
crazy.
Expensive,
Yeah.
man. Fuck me. So what we looked at some of the other ones. We looked at SaaSiest. Then we looked at a bunch of the ones. Marketing Camp, it's a big one here in Denmark, only Danish though, which is great. Was more expensive. And then we looked at the LinkedIn Summit, like by Mette Vild. She's awesome as well, and those are also more expensive.
Yeah.
And I think SaaS is a little bit different because it's also on over 2 days and stuff like that. And
and there's
where
parties.
Marketing Camp and LinkedIn Summit and stuff like that are a little bit closer to what we also want. And those were both more expensive, but also been around way.
Yeah, they
way
have
longer.
the brand equity. Yeah.
I think the hardest part about selling tickets for a first-time event is that you don't have a base. Because okay, let me ask you a question. What do you think sells the most tickets? What do you think? What type of activity do you think sells the most tickets?
At a conference or?
Yeah, for a conference like this. What do you think drives in the most sales? What, let's call it, marketing activity?
Oh, I see what you mean. I would have to assume LinkedIn or
it's close.
pushing.
Like it could be like
social media.
Organic social is high, but actually, when I look at the numbers, if I'm not mistaken, email. Good old fucking
Good old email marketing. Good
old email marketing. And here
Never
we,
died.
of course, had a huge list from, not a huge, but a list from Sparkforce. Andreas could utilize a little bit of a list from Neurons, not as much, but it was mostly our list from Sparkforce that sold a lot.
Right.
So the combination of our list from Sparkforce combined with organic social, so me posting about it all the time, the speakers, you, everyone else, right? That was the main drivers of sales of tickets.
Nice.
But email was a big one. And I think my point is to the other conferences, the reason they're capable of selling out and charging more and stuff, they have a massive base.
Yeah,
like, and
massive
I think,
email list.
and not like Obsidian, they all know that agency. They already run, like, they have their AI conference, and they have the social ad conferences and stuff. Like, they like, I don't know what their budget is these days. It's gonna, like, they're a little bit bigger in terms of size when it comes to this stuff, but it's more like, as far as I understand, I think it's most of their sales is from email.
Yeah.
And it's just because they have a massive list.
Yeah.
Like this, they do one blast, sells 40% of tickets, 50% of tickets.
But they also have that, like, brand equity. They have that reputation, so you know
You've been
when
there
the tickets
before.
come. They've been
Like,
there
we have
before,
multiple people here that are like, well, if you guys ever doing this again, we are showing up 100%.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's freaking amazing, right?
Yeah.
So that's really good. But email was, and I think that was the hardest part, is that we didn't really have, like, we had our own email list, but we didn't have a list.
Yeah.
And I think for next year we're like, okay, let's build up that list even more. Let's prep that list so we can utilize it even more.
Nice.
That's one of the things, and it just goes back to, like, it's one of those disciplines that's been around forever, right? Like, you always underestimate it. So
Yeah. It never died.
no, it never died. We did our own ads and stuff, and that also helped. All these things all help. We can definitely see it. And then I have to say something that also helps sell tickets, like go to all the little bit manual outreach once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just more like, because, like, in the beginning you just want to fucking sell these tickets, right? So it's just like, hey man, how's it going? Have you seen we're hosting Growthforia? Like, early bird ends in 2 weeks. Go, right? Like that kind of outreach to some of your friends or people you're interested in. Yeah, that worked. And then we had of course a little bit of a special discount for some of our clients. That also helped. A bunch of our clients showed up and stuff like that too. So
nice. Great. And okay, so now we're kind of at the halfway point.
Yeah.
Tell us the juicy bits.
Yeah.
What went wrong? What will you never do again?
Yeah.
What did you learn not to do? I want to hear the nots.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of things we fucked up. Like, I think, but honestly,
And this is what we love.
Yeah, the
we
fuck
love
ups
our
are great.
authenticity.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, like, to be completely fair, we didn't actually fuck up a lot. Like, in
I
my
saw
opinion.
nothing on the day.
No, like,
The only thing was there was no stage.
Yeah,
And I was promised a
nobody knew
stage.
it was supposed to be here, right? So a few things. So I think one of the main fuck ups was the technical setup, like not investing. Like, there was a technical guy at the venue, but that, I don't know. No hard feelings towards that guy, but I don't know what he was smoking because he wasn't really present.
Okay.
So next time we are taking way more control of the technical setup. It's the classic ones of, like, microphones not working, clicker not working,
Right.
and someone took the clicker and walked away. And, like,
I remember
stuff
that
like
happening.
right?
Someone took the clicker and
then I
walked
think
away.
the second part of the technical is the fucking slides, man. So I am so guilty of this myself. I'm not judging or blaming anyone because I'm the guy who, like, Casper needs slides a week before. I'm like, here you have it 2 hours before I go on stage, right? So I'm that guy, and that's totally cool. But if you have those people like myself, then you have to tell them, I will only accept this format and in this type. Because, like, we had people, Emilia, who's awesome, came from the UK. We flew her in, and she had it on, I think she was using Gamma.
Yeah.
Have you ever used that before?
I tried it. I hated it.
Okay.
But
She
it's
apparently
like
loves
an AI
it.
tool that makes your presentations for you. Yeah.
Super cool. You had some issues with your slides too?
Yes, because I use PowerPoint. But I said, what format? And I was told it didn't matter. And then I did PowerPoint, and then I had a lot of black boxes where you couldn't read the content.
So apparently it
Yeah.
mattered.
It does matter. Lesson learned.
Yeah. So I think the technical setup, at least for me, but I know this kind of stuff. So that was so the technical setup I would love to do better. Then I think some of the feedback we got was around networking part.
Okay.
We didn't have a lot of time for networking at the end because, like, the good thing was SaaS is so close, man. Like, SaaS marketing, everybody fucking knows everybody.
Everyone
it's
knows
like,
everyone, yeah.
and people are like, it feels like walking into a room of friends. I was like,
Yes, that was I just to kind of put my 2 cents in there when I walked for lunch.
Yeah.
And I saw all these people that I felt I knew, but I'd never met in real life. Adam, Selena, there's a bunch of people who I know in air quotes from LinkedIn, but I like to sit across to them face to face was like, hey,
yeah, exactly.
nice to finally meet you. It was great.
Exactly. It was so good. Like, so I think that was really great. But there was also a bunch of people who reached out to me and were like, Casper, I struggled to network because I was alone. Like I came alone, and while like you and I, we're like, if I came alone and you and I came alone, we would find a way, because like we know we can always find some people we know.
Yeah.
But here, if you don't know anyone that much in the scene, maybe that's a little bit hard. And I really took that to heart. So
Can
I
be
was
a
like,
little overwhelming.
yeah, it can be a little bit overwhelming, and I want to empower that next time. I think that, so it's a huge fuck up, but I would definitely change that. I think we did it on the 30th of October. And we hosted it here on Islandsbrygge, this Månsdale concert. That was really well. I really liked the venue.
Venue.
It was really
a nice
cool.
venue.
I think the only thing is just like the venue would be so much better if it was in summer or like warmer.
Oh yeah, because you had to walk outside to get from one spot to the other.
So there was rain, and so you had to walk between the stages. So some people would get wet, and we had to.
And if you remember, your banner got,
flew off. There was
and
too
it
much
was
wind.
like flapping around, and your team were like out there trying to secure this banner before it shattered a window.
Yeah.
But that's not your fault. It's just
it is what it is.
Denmark in
but
October, baby.
The next one we're planning to do, I think it's going to be early in September. So
Okay, that's
planning
a bit
to
better.
get a little bit closer to better weather.
Yeah.
Because like I think it's cooler if people could be outside, have a nice drink and stuff, like in the networking part. So that's also one of the learnings, I would say. There's a bunch of other, like, I think in total our goal was to break even, right? We didn't need to make money. Like, I am not accounting for the hours we put into it, because like if you account for those hours, then it's never good.
Yeah, forget about it.
Don't do that.
They all volunteered.
Yeah, we all volunteered. So if you account for the hours, and it wasn't a good deal. If you don't account for hours, we made money. Not a lot, but a little bit. One thing I would add, like, that people should consider if they're doing this, consider getting a sponsor or two. Holy moly!
Well, you had some sponsors.
We had Dream Data
corner.
and we had Neurons, both of them.
And they had booths set up.
They
I
had
saw.
booths set up, and we also were in talks with HubSpot and LinkedIn, and they're a bit more corporate. They were like, prove it, then we'll join next time. Like, okay, cool. So next time.
Next time.
I'm guessing you're joining next year. Shout out to LinkedIn and HubSpot if you're listening. You better fucking be. But I'm joking. No, but I think my point is, sponsors get you quite far as well. They don't even have to pay that much just to be part of it, but just like a little bit goes a long way in ensuring that break-even point, right?
Yeah, of course.
To like profitability of it, like, just becomes so much easier with just one or two sponsors.
And I think it's interesting too, because it's the little things that they could pay for. But like, I remember, this is going to sound so silly, but like the croissants were amazing. Like the breakfast was so good, you guys.
That was really
good.
good.
And the coffee was really good, and like the lunch was really good. Like
Yeah.
these little, it wasn't soggy sandwiches that had been sat on a plate covered in, plastic wrap.
Yeah.
It was nice food. It was a nice area. I think the only thing I would have liked is more time to meet people at the end over a glass of wine, right?
No, but absolutely.
But I grabbed some people and we went to a pub nearby, and we carried the party on ourselves. But yeah.
I had a good tip from some smart people I talked to that were like, do you ever like know when you go to like when you have to go for a wedding and you say you don't know anyone for the wedding, but if you go to the bachelor party, then you have the bachelor party and then you show up at the wedding and be like, hey, what's
Hey,
up?
pals,
And then
yeah.
you're like, it's like a gang, right?
Yeah.
That's what we should try to replicate here. So next year, what we're gonna try to do is gonna host, I don't know if it's gonna be 1, 2, or 3 or whatever, like intimate or like semi-intimate dinners, like where we get some people together who might not know each other, that we were like, hey, you guys should meet.
Well, Sassius do that, and I think that's really good.
They do
Sassius
that.
do the speaker dinner,
Facilitate,
which you did
exactly.
have a speaker dinner, but they also have like the canal cruise and stuff. And I met people in that space kind of as friends. We were just on a boat with a couple of bottles of booze and a bunch of people and music. And then when we saw each other, it was like, hey, pal, and we had our network automatically expanded.
And that's exactly my point. And I think, so...
No canal cruises in Denmark in October, please.
That's gonna be in September. So I think that was a good learning
That's
too.
a good learning.
I think one of the learnings, like all of the speakers except for one, one got a little bit of mediocre rating, and I think that person.
Who was it? Tell
No,
us.
I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I'm not.
kidding.
I don't want to be that guy. But it's just. But everyone else got super high ratings and stuff. And that only one person, I know that person is incredibly smart, like absolutely.
Was it me?
Maybe. Jen, you're not gonna get me to get in your name. I can't, like, this one.
Now you're making me nervous.
Yeah, no, okay. It wasn't you.
Okay.
But I think because the point was more, just because you're good at what you do doesn't mean you're good at on a stage.
That's true.
And
That
I
goes-
think that's just a good learning. Like, it's one of those things where we kind of knew and we took a bet. And I think next time we're like, okay, we gotta like kind of check a little, like be 100% sure that person's also good at communicating on a stage, because that's a different animal. It's a different beast. You and I are fortunate; we've done it.
We've done it a bunch of times.
A bunch of times. So it's kind of like if we haven't figured it out by now, people wouldn't invite us anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
But so that was a good learning, because like the actual content, like like what was in the deck and stuff was super good, but getting it out there wasn't great.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that you can see that in the ratings.
Okay.
So that was part of it too.
I think one of the things that I really appreciated was that so many different areas of marketing were covered.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just like strategy. It wasn't just paid ads. I really, really liked Sandy's talk, Sandy Isserman, which is not something that I don't think you would traditionally see someone coming and talking about messaging.
Sandy's awesome.
And you guys, she's amazing. You got to check her out, Sandy Isserman. But she came out with like a vicar, I don't know what you call it in Danish, but like a priest outfit.
Præstekjole.
Yeah, a priest dress, you would call it. But exactly. It, and she mourned the death of B2B messaging. And I was like,
ad copy.
Boring ad copy. That was it. And I was like, I'm hooked. I'm here. She came in costume, guys. She came with props.
Super cool.
And so it was just really nice.
And she also had that like, what was the money sticker gun, or like,
it was like a money gun that shot like her business card into the audience. Like it was honestly, it was great. Sandy, you're amazing.
The props go a huge way.
Next year, I'm going to bring props.
Yeah, props are like, I've never done props before, but I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like,
I had cute photos of hippos. I thought that would save me, but
if you think about it, like, what are the things you remember from conferences? Well, it is when people did stand out. Yeah. And I'm actually, it's like one of those things where I'm like, we talk so much about standing out, like both you and I, like in marketing, and gotta be bold, gotta be all that stuff. And then when we get to a conference, you and I are like, here's a stage, here's some slides, let me show you stuff.
These are my approved slides in my conference blazer. And
and I'm wearing black, and I'm like, okay, cool, great.
Lesson learned.
But
he also had, it was Amelia talked about the ABM.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of different things covered. Adam talked about LinkedIn. So it was just nice that it wasn't one track all day.
Yeah.
So if you are not an ads person, if you're not a performance marketer, there was a messaging session for you. And if you are not into LinkedIn, there were just other things for you to see, which I thought, but it made you a holistic marketer. I think that's the important thing is that well-rounded marketer, to make sure you know a little bit about everything rather than being an expert in one thing. So I really appreciated that about the conference. So keep that going.
I will. We definitely will. Thank you. No, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So no, I think, but I think those are the main fuck ups, if you could say so. Like there's the smaller stuff. We send some wrong emails and stuff like that. But that's, for me, that's not a fuck up. It's just whatever.
No, I mean, I think on the day it went super smooth. Yeah. So the only thing I noticed, the guy who walked away with the clicker. And Timmy had to go chase him down, or Andreas had to go chase him down. And then the banner nearly shattering the window, and your whole team.
That was crazy.
Poor Johannes.
I think one of the things we talked a lot about internally is those, now you've done it, right?
Yeah.
And the good thing is, it's just like everything else, just like with the podcast, with the pod here, right?
Yeah.
Once you've done it the first time, the second time is so much easier.
So much easier. Yeah, you got
I
the butterflies
almost can't
out.
wait. Like, and I've also talked a lot with Mette Ville, who does the LinkedIn Summit. She also does email summits. She's like the Danish conference queen of B2B. Super cool. I love her. But she also said like, it'll be so much easier the next time.
The second time around.
So the first time's the hardest, then it gets easier, and the third time, breeze.
Yeah.
Like it's never a breeze, but because like it's the same. Like we have a website now. Yes, we need to update the content, but I'm not like, I think Sarah and Timmy might want to do a little bit of a change in the colors and brand stuff, but I'm like, we technically don't need to.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot. We don't need to invent a new name. Like we'll stick with it.
You'll stick with it, even if it means diarrhea.
And we have a list of people who will. So also the ticket sales will also be easier.
Yep.
I think we're gonna. It's not because we're unhappy with the venue. I think we just want to make it a little bit bigger next year. So we're gonna try to make it a little bit bigger. So the venue. I don't think it's gonna be big enough. So we're probably gonna get a new one here. But there's a lot of things you could just
Bella
reuse.
Sky.
Maybe. I think what is it? Aiming for 150 people plus partners and sales Sparkforce people and stuff.
I think that's a modest, fair growth. Goal.
Because that will also allow us to have more tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things is just like, I think it was really good, but we also, one of the things is we had a cancellation the day before because it was sick.
Yes.
I don't think that's a fuck up per se, but it's more like, it's a good learning. Like, it's kind of like, you knew it was happening, and then we didn't like, what was our plan? Like, Can we get someone to jump in? Like, yeah, maybe, but we weren't really
It's
ready
just so
for that.
last minute,
And
though,
then it was
isn't
so fortunately we could just move Emilia in this case. She was supposed to be on a sidetrack, then we just moved her to be a keynote instead.
Yeah.
It worked out totally fine.
No one noticed.
No one really noticed.
Yeah.
I saw a few people really wanted to hear Thomas in this case because he also he was going to talk about PLG. And that was, for me, that was one of the things that could have been really good. I think some of the feedback we got was there was not enough AI in general. Like, we haven't forced people to talk about AI, so they
because we're all AI'd out. I talked about AI.
Did you? Okay.
I did, yeah. What AI tools you can use across the bow tie.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, okay.
So that person clearly didn't go to my talk.
Yeah, I was about to say, the person didn't listen to Jen. So they wanted more AI, and I think let's listen to the crowd a bit. So let's make sure we get some AI in. One really cool feedback, actually, and I got this from multiple people, like face to face, but also in the survey, so also anonymously, was that they would have liked to see me and more people from SparkForge talk.
Oh, interesting.
So we decided not to talk, both Andreas, Frederik, and I, none of us or anyone from SparkForge the first year. We wanted to prove, like, we wanted to do it without us. Like, and we got multiple people giving the feedback, like, that's great, I understand your decision, but next time I want to see you.
Yeah.
There was literally a guy who was like, it's great, Casper, but shut the fuck up and get on stage.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, cool.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But don't turn into HubSpot, because I think in inbound now it's like 52% of the speakers
And
are
that's my exact feer, right? And that's
Yeah.
also some, like, again, the Obsidians of the world, whatever. Like, I looked at their schedule and I was like, okay, that's a lot of your own speaker stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of the conferences turn into that after a while.
It becomes a bit salesy,
and
too,
it
if
becomes
you-
that loses the edge for me. Yeah. So I think we agreed that's going to be two people from internal, so either Andreas, Frederik, me, and then maybe one from SparkForce or something like that. So so 2 people maximum that are internal next year.
I think one thing that I've always gotten, I went to one conference, I think it was the AWS Summit, which I thought was really cool because they had one session where everyone had to bring their laptops and you build something.
Okay.
Like someone walks you through it, because it's all, this is not a critique of Growthforia. Most conferences, you sit and you listen.
Yes.
And then you get the decks afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's like, show me, talk to me and I'll try to remember it, but show me and I'll know how to do it
Remember
myself.
it forever.
And that's, I don't know if that's something you can incorporate, but if you do an AI, for example, bring your laptop, let's create an AI agent together. Like that's something I've seen really work well in conferences.
Yes.
But
I'm totally buying that. Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I think overall, I was super happy. But let's be real. I think the main lesson, if you can give away to people, this is hard fucking work.
yeah, this is not a side hustle.
This is not a
gig.
side
Yeah.
hustle. Like, this is not something you do. Some people might do it, but wow. Like, this is, I knew this was a lot of work. I knew it going in, but it's the classic thing. You never really know until you tried it.
Of course, yeah.
Oh my God. That was a lot. And Timmy mastered it all, and he worked really hard and worked very late hours and
Yes, he did.
close up too. So he did great, but yeah, that was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a classic thing. Like, if you were to do a review founder journey, would you do it again? Yeah, like, if you asked the NVIDIA founder, he was like, would you do it again? And they're like, no, I wouldn't do it again. I was like, okay.
And he's a bajillionaire now.
Yeah, exactly, right? So like, okay, that's what does that mean for the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
But I think I would definitely do it again, but it's just like, this is not something you do as a side thing.
You know how much it takes in terms
You
of
need to
resources.
invest.
and
Like,
you're
this
gonna
is
invest.
this is a lot of time, especially the first time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it turns into shit, and that's also bad, right?
It just sets you off on the wrong foot, right?
Yeah.
You have one chance to make a good first impression.
I think one of the cool things I want to bring up here is I know we're running out of time here, but so our ICP, right? Like, we had a bunch of clients, then we had a bunch of the prospects that we already were talking to or something. And it was like, I want to say 20% or something. But then we had, I want to say 40% of ICP fits that we weren't in dialogue with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
And these were from Denmark or Nordics or something.
And tactically speaking, everyone went into your CRM, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
As you registered, it went into the CRM,
Yeah.
and you can do what you need to do
Yeah.
within legal limits.
I think, like, don't get me wrong, like, I haven't actually asked them, so that's a good question. Maybe I should ask them. But I think we were on their radar anyways. I think, like, some of these people knew about us before, so it's not like that. But it's just, I find it really interesting to, like, if you think about it, like, this is why you have these type of things. It's the same reason you have a webinar, and why webinars still work is because sometimes, like, it's too hard of a jump to validate or something, like, to get in a connection. It's just like, hey, I want a demo or let's talk. Then sometimes you want to have a webinar first, like, get some sort of validation, and sometimes you want to go to an event or something, and then they might come inbound. So it's like, how did these people signed up for our event, paid you're gonna say
2,000,
2,500 or early bird maybe for a ticket. Some people bought multiple, and they weren't even in our pipeline. They weren't even on our. They might have been on our target account list, but they weren't even on a. Yeah, I find that really interesting.
And I think it's a great way of getting like the stalkers, like, and I mean that in a nice way. But the people who see you on LinkedIn, but maybe they don't engage, but they see you, and now all of a sudden there's a CTA. That they can kind of get behind and get something out of, and that kind of brings them to the surface.
Exactly.
In a way, and now they know you. You're connected with them.
Yeah.
It's. I think conferences are really great, and this is one of the reasons so many portfolio companies and so many companies in general love to do events.
Yes.
Right. They're such a great, but they're resource heavy. That it's a lot of work, but the ROI can be really, really great if you keep track of people and engage with them in the right way. I
actually haven't. I've been really busy in November, November, December, but I need to follow up. And so we have follow up on some of it, and we're going to follow up more on it. But I think it's going to be cool. Like, ask me in a year, like ask me at the next Growthforia, how many of those non-client ICP fits that turned into something.
Yeah.
I would love to do that. I'm going to do that analysis, so I'm going to bring it up myself. That'd be interesting,
because that's your ROI, right? That's how you're going to see.
That's exactly how we measure it. And like, I think back to our Katrine talk on ABM and events, right? That's the same. Like, I'm not expecting Growthforia ROI per se tomorrow, but I'm expecting it in a year or so.
Yeah.
I talked to the guy who runs growth at Umbraco. Super cool guy. And he said that they host a massive Umbraco event. I can't remember, like massive, way bigger. And he was like, well, technically they lose money on it. Like it's not on a surface level. But the whole reason they do it is because they bring in all the clients, and the clients talk to prospective clients, and then so the ROI on the back end of it.
And that's what we did at Onamundo too. We had the IoT, Made for IoT Summit, which was get in prospects, get in happy customers. And it's, sure, we talk a little bit and we have guest speakers, but the real magic is in getting them talking. Yeah. And that's what a lot of events, that's where the ROI is, in getting those people together.
Exactly. And that's exactly how we felt. And it was like, that's also why we're like, we don't need to make money. I don't want to lose money. I don't want to lose money. Like, as long as I don't lose money beyond our hours, then I'm fine. So,
and kind of following from Dennis's episode, as long as you don't embarrass yourself on stage and ruin your brand and your reputation or lose money, you're good.
I think one of the things actually is I did the intro. I should have prepared that intro way better. I had so much on my plate, so that intro was quickly stitched together. And next time I'll do a better one. Oh well.
It's so you, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's what? Wait, you have a conference today? Sure, give me a microphone.
Guys, what should I say? I was literally fixing some slides a few minutes before, so yeah.
Well, it was a great event. I'm not just saying this as your podcast wife, but it was a really good event, and we need more of them in Denmark. So
it will be back. We're doing it again. Nice. Absolutely. Now, especially because now it's going to be easier.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. And and I think people, if they want to learn about the event, growthforia.com.
Yeah,
right?
Go for it.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Cheers. Bye.